Hey guys, welcome back to Tier 1 Concealed. Today we have another episode of Monday Gunday for you, and I'm sure you can already tell by the box, this is a Glock. Specifically the new Gen 6 Glock, and we have the Gen 6 45 here. So this is a pretty popular option for people considering concealed carry. So what the 45 is a full frame, the full bottom half of like a Glock 17, and then the Glock 19 size slide and barrel. So shorter top half, full frame bottom half, and people like that because then it's less barrel and slide length going down your pants, and you can still get a good full grip. So especially for me and other people with large hands, that's pretty nice. The Glock 19 frame is a little bit too short for a lot of people, they find. So what is new with the Gen 6? You guys have probably seen a lot of hype around these, and I truly think they're pretty cool. I think the changes that they made going into the Gen 6 were pretty substantial, especially when you consider Gen 3 to 4 and then Gen 4 to 5. There were changes there, yes, but I don't think any of them were super significant. People were just kind of like, yeah, this is the same old gun. So most notably, you will notice the grip texturing. It's like a 360 degrees around the grip there, and it's more aggressive than what you're typically seeing out of stock Glocks. And I like it a lot. Carrying it concealed, it's not too aggressive to, you know, rub your raw on your stomach, but it's definitely noticeable as you're shooting and as you're gripping the gun. It's giving you a lot more friction there. So that's nice. They also reshaped the grip itself, so it's more round and it feels a lot more comfortable. There's somewhat of a palm swell built in as well. And that is actually quite nice. You can notice that on your support hand where the meat of your hand kind of fills in your grip there. I think overall how they redesigned it and reshaped it is pretty nice. Additionally, they cut in these little accelerator cuts or gas pedals or little thumb ledges, whatever you want to call it. And that allows you to, with your support hand, if you're into this kind of a thumbs forward and down pressure, you can kind of get some grip on this ledge there. So that's nice. These are all changes or modifications that most people would make after market, you know, on their stock Glocks. So Glock decided just to throw all these in right out of the box. So you didn't have to send your gun off somewhere to get stippled and cut up and everything. Another thing is the trigger guard undercut right here. That was probably the biggest thing for me. Big fingers, big knuckles. I always noticed kind of a pressure point on my middle finger knuckle right about there on a stock Glock. So all of my Glocks had to be trigger guard undercut and kind of smoothed and rounded, or else I didn't really want to shoot them. It was annoying and somewhat painful. So having that taken care of right off the bat was nice. Another change they did was the trigger shoe. They made it kind of a flat face trigger with this little angle in there. And I think aesthetically, it looks cool. It looks nice. It's basically the same Glock trigger that you're going to be used to though. So not a whole lot different there other than just the way it looks, but I like it. I think it's an improvement. They also enhanced the front slide serrations, made those a little bit deeper, a little bit more pronounced, so that press check or slide manipulation might be a little bit easier. They also changed the optic system, so how you mount red dots. All of these Gen 6s are coming straight from the factory, optic cut, and they have this new adapter system that's pretty cool. I think it's a big improvement over the old MOS system. They use little adapter plates that don't need to be screwed in. You still are just using 2 screws for the optic only that will go through the optic, through the adapter plate, and into the slide itself. So less moving parts, less chances for things to come loose and back out. You still obviously want to make sure everything's torqued to spec and Loctited, and you have witness marks and everything like that, just to be safe. And I think the last thing they did is, going back to the frame and the grip of the gun, is they added this beaver tail, little extended beaver tail. And I've heard mixed reviews about that. And initially I was excited because on all of my Glocks, I always had to add a back strap with the extended beaver tail addition onto that. Because again, with big hands, and I like to get as high on the gun as I can to have more leverage, I always found that my knuckle was getting in, it was impeding the slide a little bit, getting some slide bite. And if I was shooting a lot, I would get cut there and start to bleed, and it was not enjoyable. So I'd always add those back straps on, make sure I had more of a pronounced beaver tail, and that helped remedy that issue. But after seeing this and messing around with this, I can tell that I'm not going to have to add any back strap. That solves that issue for me. And some people say, well, you're only getting slide bite because you're gripping it incorrectly, or you do something different. I don't believe that. That's just my personal opinion, though. I think some people just due to their anatomy and the way they are trying to control the gun, it's just going to happen on certain guns. So eliminating that is awesome. So the beaver tail, I think, is sweet. Some people say it lowers the bore axis, but in my opinion, it doesn't. I think it's going to be just the same, if not better, because when you do go for an earlier generation Glock and you add those back straps with the beaver tail on it, you're actually pushing the bore axis down a little bit. So you're making it less ideal leverage wise. So not having to do any of that, sweet. So I think Glock did a great job with these improvements. Is it anything like wildly revolutionary and drastically different? No, not really, but I don't think they needed to do that. And I think their decisions to make this gun the way they did were based off of a lot of years of research and evaluation on their current guns and seeing what people were doing aftermarket. And they came in and redesigned the whole frame. That was probably the biggest thing, just to eliminate the need for that. And in the end, saving all of us a lot of money, because it's expensive to send your frame or your slide off to get cut or stippled or modified however you want it. That's just extra on top of the MSRP. So getting into MSRP, this is a little bit, starting off a little bit higher than what we typically see some of the previous generations of Glocks, but it's new, and I think MSRP from Glock is around 750, 740, 750, somewhere around there. But most places you're finding most gun shops are going to be in the low 600s. I saw the price 620 a lot when researching this. So I expect those numbers to drop a little bit, and especially on the second market, you'll be able to pick these up for probably sub 600 all day. And if you're law enforcement or you have that blue line deal, you're looking at the low 500s. So even better. I think that's cool because you're not going to have to get it optic cut. You won't have to spend any money on plates. You're not going to have to get it stippled or cut or anything like that. The only thing you might think about doing aftermarket is maybe throwing on a comp or getting it ported or putting in a different trigger or something like that. But none of those things are really necessary. I think right out of the box, this is pretty cool. So let's take this out to the range and see how it shoots and run it through our drills and see what it's like. Okay, so we have our trusty Axis Elite holster we're going to be using today. You know the drill. We're going to do a couple bill drills at 7 yards and then a 3 reload 3 a couple times at 7 yards, and then we'll put up a B8 and shoot for accuracy. So we'll see how this does. The bill drill is nice. The bill drill is not nice. The bill drill is there for a reason, is what I'm trying to say. We do the bill drill to test a lot of fundamentals. Tracking the sights, recoil management, working the trigger, trying to do all those things fast and accurately. So hopefully we get all A-zone hits. I'll just try to keep it clean and go as fast as I can, and we will see what happens. Stand by. Okay, that was a 221. And I just had one left. So a little slow. That first shot was on the money though. That's all that matters really. All right, we'll try it again. Okay, that was a little better, a 214. So nothing crazy fast. But I think that's fairly consistent, repeatable there. So this gun is pretty shootable. I mean, the trigger, it's a new trigger shoe, but it feels like a Gen 5 trigger. It's not anything impressive, but it's not terrible. You know, if you're used to Glocks, you'll be just fine with it. But it's kind of long, heavy trigger pull. But, you know, it is what it is. Just stock Glock out of the box. It's kind of what you expect. Recoil is nothing crazy. These are just regular, standard Blazer brass, 115 grain 9mm. So nothing crazy with recoil. You can track the sights easy. The gun's not doing a backflip out of your hands. And I think a lot of that, this new texturing and kind of like how they reshape the trigger, I think that kind of helps, as well as this little gas pedal right there that they built into the frame. It's nice. I like it. I like it. So I will download to 3 so I can go to slide lock, and then we'll do the slide lock reload to work the controls, see how this kind of flared magwell is, and again, just work recoil management, rebuilding that grip after the reload, and see how that goes. Stand by. Okay. So kind of fumbled the reload there a little bit. That was a 461. And after the reload, I got kind of sloppy and I threw one just, I think it looks like just outside of the line into the C zone. So we'll load it up again and try to improve on that. This magwell is better than a lot of just kind of like built-in, you know, magwells on some guns, but it just can't beat big flared aftermarket magwell. Okay. Stand by. Okay, felt a little better there. 445, so you know, not a crazy good time, but I felt like I, you know, smoothed some things out. That one was all clean. So far I've put a few mags through this gun and it seems pretty decent, you know. Seems like some worthwhile improvements to just a normal Glock, I think. I like the trigger guard undercut. That's something I always had to do. I felt like I couldn't shoot a Glock without doing that, either myself or having that done by some other company, just because I got big knuckles and big fingers, and it was always just kind of an annoying thing there. I also really like this built-in beaver tail because, again, big hands, big knuckles. I was always getting slide bite unless I added on that beaver tail back strap with earlier generation Glocks. So having that built in there, so far, I mean, I've put maybe 5-6 mags through this. Haven't had any issues with that, and I feel like I can still get really high up in there. And like I mentioned before, the grip and everything, I like it all. It's all good. I don't know if it's like great or phenomenal, but I mean, it's not an expensive gun. So, I mean, you're getting a lot, I think, for this. So good improvement so far. So I'll put up a B8 target and we'll go back to 10 yards and test accuracy. Okay, clean B8 up here. We'll take it back to 30 feet, which is also 10 yards. Got this convenient line in the sand here. No time limit, just gonna try to shoot this. Wow. Okay. So group tight, I was just a little low. My first shot was quite a bit low. And that's probably a combination of me yanking it down a little bit and also just a slight discrepancy on the 0 here. So at 10 yards, I think everything's tight and locked up, but let's go check it out. I was aiming, I kept aiming on the X toward, you know, maybe the top half of the X or maybe just above it. Right around here is where I was trying to break the shot off each time. So most of them were right in here. This was my first shot. So that's the only one that's going to drop points. So would be a 99 out of 100, but I want everything to be in the X. So maybe I just adjust the dot up a couple clicks and that should solve that. Cause I mean, everything's pretty tight there. So obviously an accurate gun, it's going to be more accurate than me. I think that's pretty typical with most guns these days. But yeah, we could just adjust the 0. So accurate despite, you know, the Glock trigger. People like to make that excuse that's going to make you inaccurate. And I mean, maybe it did my first shot, but you can still shoot it well. So let's go back to the armory, score it up and see how this does. Okay, so now that we are back from the range, shooting this gun was pretty decent. I like it. I think those changes they made really helped like the shooting experience. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's just a polymer Glock, but I think it is improved quite a bit from the Gen 5. So let's get into our scoring system. First category is cost. So looking at about 620 bucks, that's going to be a score of a 7.8. It's not terribly expensive, but it's not super cheap. There's still a good market in that $500 range or below. This is coming in a little bit higher than that, but I still think it's a good cost. Next, we have ergonomics, and I'm giving that a score of an 8.3. I think, especially compared to previous generations of Glocks, the ergonomics are phenomenal on this. The grip feels great. The controls are all the same. Slide release, mag release, all that stuff. But just the way they reshape the grip and the way you can get leverage on the gun, I think that is awesome. Moving on to trigger, I'm giving this one a 5.5 because it's pretty heavy. I think generally 5.5 to 6 pounds. And so it's a decently long trigger pull. So if you want to shoot this thing competitively or just want to squeeze as much performance out of it, you're probably going to look at some aftermarket trigger components to kind of fix that. But trigger shape is cool, but it's just a long, heavy trigger pull. Bore axis on this gun, giving it an 8.1. I think the beavertail helps quite a bit. I don't think it moves your hand down any compared to previous generations of Glocks, and without having to use additional back straps with the beaver tail added onto it, you're still as high and as tight as you can possibly get on there. It's a very controllable gun. Going on to sights, losing some points there just because nobody likes these plastic sights, but you can get aftermarket sights. I think the optic system absolutely helps that, and I think it's much improved from previous generations. So that is a score of 5.2 for sights. Next up is aftermarket support, and it's a Glock. Shares a lot of compatibility with Gen 5, so it's getting a 9.5 because there's everything you can put on the gun. It's all available, all of it. So round capacity, getting a score of a 7.6. It comes with 3 17-round mags out the box, which I think is pretty good, pretty standard for a full-size frame gun. Could be better, could be a lot worse though too. Serviceability, I'm giving that a score of a 9.2. It's a Glock, very serviceable, super easy takedown, easy maintenance. It's gonna, you probably don't even have to do anything to it for 10,000 rounds at least. So looking in at value, I'm giving this a score of a 7.9. I think it is a good value. The price point's a little bit higher than I think a lot of people will want, but I think you are getting a lot out of the new improvements and the tweaks they made to the gun. And you're getting 3 mags, and you're getting this super sick Glock hard case that is the same thing we've been getting for years and years and years, so that's awesome. And lastly, cool factor. I'm giving this one an 8.5 because I think it is cool. I think it looks cool. I think it shoots well. I love the improvements they made over it. I've always liked Glocks. I've had Gen 3s, Gen 4s, and Gen 5s, and I like them all. I think they all shoot well. But I think this one, right out of the box, by far feels the best. I think those improvements were very well thought out, and sure, they maybe could have made it even better, but I think this is a pretty significant step in the right direction, and so I like it. So I definitely think it's cool. So overall score, this gun is getting a 77.6 out of 100, and that is going to put it in maybe the top 10 of guns we've reviewed. I'm not sure, but it's a pretty decent score, and you can compare them to the list of the other guns we've reviewed somewhere on the screen, wherever we put it. So once again, we have Gen 6 Glock holsters available right now, but also if you have like a old Gen 5 or a Gen 4 holster, it's gonna fit too. We have this cool Christmas Kydex holster. It's actually a Glock 34 length holster, but the 19 slide still fits in there no problem, and it works and it's reliable. So check those out if you're looking for Glock holsters. This is the Axis Elite model. So anyways, this is the end of the review. Let us know what you think about it, how I did as a reviewer. I know this is I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible, but it's just me reviewing this, and these are my opinions. So take that for what it's worth. Let us know what you think about the Gen 6, if you shot it, if you felt it, what you think about the new grip. Drop those comments below. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Help us out with the algorithm. And we love you guys. Thanks for the support, and we'll catch you on the next one.